Hi Year 3-4, welcome back for lesson 2 of our illustration lessons. So this week I am going to show you how to turn one of your thumbnails that we did last week into a beautiful piece of artwork. Now remember, this project is all about us telling a story through art. So I want you today to pick one of those, one of your mini pictures. So we did our plan last week. I think today I'm going to focus on this one, and I've had to think about it and I'm going to make a few adjustments, and that is okay because remember, when we did this is a plan and it doesn't mean you need to stick to all the fine details, which I'll go through with you as we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the camera around so that you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll go through the stages of turning your thumbnail into a beautiful piece of artwork. Okay, so this is the plan that I did with you guys in the last lesson. What I'm going to focus on is the middle sections because I just think it'll be quite fun and quite exciting to do with you. So I'm actually going to look at this one here. This was quite a brief plan, but I really want to look at this one with you because I want you to show you how you can kind of make it look like something's moving, which is essentially what's happening in this. I want to make it look like the vines are coming out of her sketchbook. So I thought this would be a fun one to look at with you. Now, what I would like you to do at this point is look at your storyboard, look at your thumbnails, and have a think. Which one out of your thumbnails would you like to turn into a big piece of artwork? Remember, you can do all of them, but for this lesson, I really want you just to focus on one, okay? So this is the one that I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to put my plan over here so that I can see it while I'm doing it, because it's really important to keep looking at your plans to make sure that you're not going too far from what your original ideas were. Because remember, we were very organized. I put here jungle painting because that's what she was doing. She was painting the jungle, and I've even put the colors in, which I hope you have done as well. Now I'm going to keep my color wheel quite close by as well, because when we're putting the color on, it's really good idea to keep in mind what colors we're using, because it's really easy to accidentally end up using your 3 primary colors, and anybody that's done that before will know that if you end up mixing all of those together, you're going to end up with this murky brown color. Okay, so that's what we want to avoid today. So I have got an A3 sheet of paper. I would love it if you had around about the same size, because you can just do a lot more on it. You can use A4 though. If you haven't got that at home, honestly, don't worry. Just grab a normal sheet of A4 paper and we can get going. Okay, now the changes I'm making is that she's obviously painting these vines, but rather than her being in the middle, I want it to be her sketchbook. So I rethought about how I want to tell this story, and I've decided that actually these vines should be coming out of her sketchbook, because that's where she's painting and that's where her imagination is coming from. So nice and lightly, I'm just putting the shape of the sketchbook on. Now, I'm not putting it on dark at the moment. I'll do the center line dark so that you can see, because I'm going to do the vines shooting out. And so it's going to go over the edge of the page, which means I want to keep these lines, so they go along here like this, fairly light at the moment until I've decided where the colours go in. So because this is, I want to imagine, this is like magic, isn't it? She's magic. She paints something and it turns into reality. It turns into real life colour and real life vines and things. So the first thing I want to do is kind of create these waves of colour which are coming out of the book. Okay, so this is the green that would be the jungle colours are going to be coming out. So it might not all be the same green, might be just some lovely different tones of green. but that's how I want to kind of visualize her kind of magic coming to life. So these are the colors coming out. Now with that, there's going to be kind of these vines wrapped around. So I'm going to put these vines on, and I'm going to add on things like the leaves, so you can really see that they are vines. So let's do these as well. Okay, so can you see, look, I'm keeping the shapes really simple. I don't want this job to be a tricky one. There we go. And with illustration, particularly if you're thinking about it, you know, from a children's book perspective, something that's going to catch your eye is actually a simpler drawing and just really vibrant, really bright and vibrant. Now, once I've done that, I want to think about this as paint. So these ones are the vine ones, and then I want to think this is it's wet, it's coming out, it's moving, it's like magic, and it's going to spray the whole room and turn it into a jungle. So I kind of want like drops of and splashes of paint coming out to the side as well. So I'm going to do like little drops of paint kind of splashing out. So that you can see that it is moving. It's splashing as it's coming out. Oh, could you imagine? So these little drops, there we go, splashing. Okay. So once I've got all of that, what I can now do is go over the edge of the book that's not got any paint or vines on top of it, and just darken those lines up. Okay. So there, to there. There we go. Okay. So now you can see that that paint, that colour's on top of the book. Now I want this to look a bit more like a book down here. So I'm going to just kind of add in this kind of the book cover so that you can see that it is a book. There we go. Okay, right, here we go. Now, once you've got your sketch onto your page and you're happy with the composition, so the layout of it all, and you feel like everything's in the right place, that's when you can start adding colour. Now, for this, you can literally use anything. You can use whatever you've got at home. So you can use felt tips, colouring pencils, crayons, pastels, chalks, paint. Honestly, it is completely up to you and how you want it to look. So if you want bright, bold colours, then maybe go for something like paint or felt tips. Just realised, look, I left a little bit of my book out here, so I'm just going to add that in. If maybe you've got something like space, then you might want to use chalk or pastels, because it's really easy to blend and make kind of the pattern of what a planet would look like. So have a look at yours. It's completely up to you. Now I'm going to be using these, which are my watercolor pens. These are really great. They've got a brush on the end of them, so they're very similar to using felt tips, but they've got a nice soft flexible brush, and then of course, because they're watercolors, I can blend them really nicely at the end. Now this is the jungle, the jungle patterns coming out, so I want to be focused on the green colors. Okay, now I would like a bit of red in there as well, I think, because you can get some, I might even add maybe a few like flowery shapes onto my vines maybe, and they can be like these little bits of colour. Let's add some squiggly little flowers on. And they can just be a little splash of the red colour just to break up the greens. But the way I'm going to make it look quite nice is that I'm not just using one green. I've got 4 different colours here. Okay, and the great thing is because these are all different versions of green, they're all the colour family, which means they're going to blend together really, really nicely. Now I'm going to start with my lightest colour, okay, because I can go over the top of it. And what I want to do really, I'm just going to start filling out these splashes of solid greens coming out of the book. Okay. And I'm not too worried about going over my vines and leaves at the moment. The only thing that I'm really not going to go over is this, the flower, because the red on top of the green won't look very good. But green on top of green, a darker green on top of the lighter green will be absolutely fine. So I'm doing some of it, but I don't want to, I want to see what 2 different greens in one kind of splodge coming out is going to look like. So I'm just going to do kind of half of it. All right, let me get another green. So I'm going to get the next lightest one for one of these. Now remember, these are watercolours that I'm using. They're watercolour pens, so I can blend these together really nicely. Perhaps if you're using felt tips or colouring pencils, you might want to do solid blocks of colour rather than trying to blend them together like I'm doing. Obviously, if you're using normal paint or you're using chalks or pastels, you can blend away. But felt tips are harder to do that with. Okay. Oh, I quite like the different tones of green. So I'm going to use a dark one over here. Now remember, look, I'm not going to go over though what will be my little red flower there. Because the red and the green will make brown. I don't want brown. I don't want a brown flower. I want a vibrant red flower. So I'm not doing it super, super neat because these colours can blend together, which I'll show you in just a minute. So what I do is I go around, I do all my big splodges of green first. And I'd probably, because they're the underneath layer, I would stick to the lighter greens for these. So now I've just got a paintbrush and I'm blending these together now. I'm getting that. Can you see how lovely and smooth that is once you start blending it? I really do love working with watercolours because they're such a nice paint to work with and so easy to use. Even if you're not very confident with your painting, it's a great medium to start painting with because you can move it about so easily and you can change it and you can add to it and you can layer it. You can even sometimes almost rub it out just by using water. So can you see that? I've got a nice blend. Let's do the same for this one as well. Now, if you are using watercolours like me, just be very aware that if I was to put a different colour on top, so say I was going to try and do my vine leaves now, while the underneath bit is still wet, what would actually happen is that it would all blend together and you would lose the shape and it really would not look very good. Okay, so what you need to do is you even need to, if you're using watercolours, you need to leave it to dry between each layer. And even if you're using normal paint, you might want to do this as well. Leave each layer to dry. Okay, so I would need to leave this to dry, or you can do what I do and get a hairdryer. And if you blast it, if you get a grown up to blast it with the hairdryer, then you can dry off your painting really quick. So I'm going to pause recording just for a minute and I'm going to dry it off so that I can show you the next part. So that is all nice and dry now. And what I can do now that layer's dry, so what I do is I do all the underneath layers first. And then what I can do with one of my darker greens is now go over the top. And go over the top, I can put my vines in and I can fill the leaves in, put the flower on, and it won't blend together because I've already dried it off. Okay, can you see that there? And it's really standing out, nice and vibrant. So no matter what type of story you're doing, whether you're using the same colours as me, similar kind of patterns and designs, it's really important to make sure that you think about it as layers, especially if you're using paint, so that you can let each layer dry first. Let each layer dry. And then you can layer on top. And you can do this with ordinary paint as well. If you get a grown-up to do the hairdryer, ordinary paint will dry as well, just maybe not quite as quick. So this is the next layer, just putting on the details. I just want that little bit of red flower, that jungle flower on there. Just want that to stand out. Now, the back of it, ordinarily, I would have done all the background first and then done these layers. But because this is an illustration and because this is coming out of a sketchbook where the page is white, I want to keep that white, okay? But this bit around the edge, I want to do like my books have. They have this pattern in the background. Now, what I might do is, because all of these splodges would be green and with the odd splashes of red, I kind of want to use something different in the background. So I can look at my colour wheel. I can think, right, I'm using the greens to do the colour splashes. So what's kind of on the opposite side of my colour wheel? What might stand out? And what I'm actually getting are these colours here, these purples and possibly some darker blues. I think it's going to stand out. So that's what I'm going to look for. I'm going to get some lighter blues, a purple. I might even put some yellow in because I do think that little flash of yellow here. So maybe I'll start with just those three colours. Okay. I'm just going to check that I've got the lighter purple, yeah. And I'm going to use the shapes and patterns that I use in my book for the background. So I'm going to do some of the shapes all in one colour. I'm going to do just lots of different sizes. Some might be kind of half hidden and off the page. And do some stars in the yellow. So I do this all the way around the book. Now that's just because I want that pattern to be almost like the border, the background of this piece. It's my green, what have I got purple? So let's do some swirls in purple. Now, what Luca does is she sets all these up on the computer as layers, and they lay on top of each other. Okay, So can you see this lovely pattern is developing? So it's a bit trickier for us because whereas Luca has got the computer program where she can set them all up as layers, we need to draw them as though they are layers. So that means, see, I've done like this one here where some of it is actually hidden behind the book. So it does make our job a little bit trickier. But it is worth it if you want to do something like that. It will end up looking really, really good. Okay, so then I would continue that layer all the way around the edge until all of this is a beautiful finished piece of art. So I really hope that helps you, and I can't wait to see what you do. Now remember, this is quite an open-ended project really, because you are starting with just the one today, but that doesn't have to be the end. If you want to do some more over half term and put your whole book together, that would be absolutely amazing. And you know, just really focus on getting your picture looking amazing, because the whole point of this is to tell the story using just the picture. Okay, so the reason I showed you this one today is because I wanted to show you how you could make it look like it's actually moving, and you don't actually have to say it. You can just see it. You can see what's happening. That paint is coming out of the page. So what do you need to do on your picture to do that? Is there anything that's moving? Perhaps if you're doing an outer space one, maybe there is an alien ship and you might need to show that it's moving. And a thing that some illustrators will use is they'll put some lines at the back of it to show that it's moving forward, and it's moving forward quite quickly. Okay, maybe you're underwater and you can show like a swishing or a splash in the water. That's really, really effective too. So there's lots of different things that you can use. Be really creative. You don't need to use real colors either. This is your story, your book, your artwork, okay? So it doesn't need to be real, all right? It doesn't need to be real colors. I've done purple and blue trees. I've never seen purple and blue trees before, but I would love to, so I used them in one of my artworks. So what are you going to do? How are you going to be creative with yours? Okay, and I really look forward to seeing them. All right, take care. See you soon. Bye.